Unpeeled. And today we've got a couple of news items for you. And the first one comes to us from India, where we've got Nabam Papum Pare, or of Papum Pare, which is an area of India, who's working along with Anang Tadar and Lika Nana. And I apologize in advance for these guys' names because I probably butchered them. But what they're doing is very, very interesting. So they've gotten together and started a company called Ivory and Ornaments. And what they're doing is they're making, using 3D printing and other techniques, they're making headgear and other traditional kind of ceremonial items, which are made from things like animal teeth, uh, parts of a clouded leopard, the off-white, like the color teeth of a wild boar, tiger teeth, and other parts. And what they're doing is they're recreating all these parts that are necessary for these rituals using 3D printing, and they're selling them. And the idea is that somebody could buy them from them to celebrate the heritage, or if they're really into clouded leopards or the talons of an eagle, which you see in front of you, you could buy them. Or a tribe could use these as a headgear, so they don't have to keep killing animals, right? So I think this is a wonderful use of 3D printing. We already know that 3D printing is used extensively in museums and these kind of things, and we hope to see more of that. Of course, one interesting way of doing this would be to recreate ivory and other band substances using resins and 3D printing and getting the color matching right and stuff, and then to sell those things as if they were real to people who are poaching these animals or to people who are trading these. That would be, uh, that would be kind of fraudulent, but at the same time, it would save these animals as well. So that's something else somebody could be doing with 3D printing at one point, if you wanted to do that. Just an idea. The next thing comes to us from the Missouri University of Science and Technology. Their research team has won a grant of 1.4 million US dollars from the US Army Corps of Engineers, and that is doing something that's really, 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 really smart. They're using artificial intelligence, machine learning, to source or to, out of the locally available materials, come up with the best mix, the best recipe for the aggregate and maybe even the add mix. Right. So when you're 3D printing concrete, you could, of course, bring that 3D printer there and bring all of your aggregate and all of your stuff from the States to wherever the US military is. But that is, of course, a lot of transport. Transport for the military is very important. It's very expensive because they have to protect it as well. And on top of that, for their procurement stuff is they're usually cost more for them to procure stuff. And on top of that, there's kind of an opportunity cost, right? If I'm shipping in concrete, then I can't be shipping in arms or fuel or medicine or whatever. There's only so much space I have in so many aircraft or so many boats at so much time. So of course, using 3D printing rather than shipping in the components is of course very advantageous. And then using local aggregate is also very advantageous. Just to give you an idea, depending right now, we're seeing that certain add mixes, right, which are kind of like a mixture that mix in the 3D printing concrete mixture to make it suitable for 3D printing, because of course it has different drying characteristics. Because then normally you would just like leave it somewhere for a couple of days. Now, or of course, has to kind of dry quickly and kind of not shrink in the right way to mess up those layers. So this add mix has to have certain characteristics. In certain cases, we're seeing that you need only 3% add mix, or in other cases, 30%. That in and of itself is a big difference. But we're also seeing that these aggregate mixes can be produced locally. So in certain cases, in industrialized economy, you can produce like 70% of the stuff locally. That's great. But what if you're in the middle of nowhere? What if you're into unforeseen circumstances, some new country? So this is what the Marine Corps is trying to do. They're trying to figure out, or the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, I'm sorry, is trying to do. They're trying to figure out, okay, what if I don't know where I'm going to go before, and I find out what's available locally? Can I figure out what the right proportions and right ingredients are? I think this is really smart. It's going to save them a ton of money, and it's going to make it much more likely they'll 3D print stuff, which of course will be much, much cheaper than doing it. They're also looking at using things like ground glass, rice husk ash, which is kind of like a burnt thing that remains over from food production. So this all sounds really, really smart. That's being run by Kamal Kayat, who's the University Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation at that university. And yes, it could be sustainable, it could be cheap, it could really increase the capabilities of the U.S. military, and it could make this a much more locally acceptable technology and a much more environmentally friendly technology. Imagine, rather than shipping in all this stuff from certain countries, you could make all of it locally, very, very, very locally, right? So instead of making it in Tanzania, you could make it in a particular valley in Tanzania in a certain way. So that could be very advantageous going forward. Another use of machine learning is by Zvonko Vukshrek of Pixelid and Lilian van Daal. Lilian is a designer. Zvonko is kind of a technologist, kind of person that helps people bring their designs to life. And they have made a lamp, and they've done this using text input machine learning. So they've done a kind of ChatGPT kind of alternative and turned that into a certain amount of code. And here they have a repeating set of natural structures. I don't know if it's a Voronoi or what kind of structure it is. Kind of looks very familiar, but I don't know what it is. And they've made a lamp out of this. So this again is something really easy. You could have done this last weekend as well if you wanted to use a machine learning tool like ChatGPT or something similar, and to output the instructions for a lamp. I think this is one of these things, like, it's super obvious. A lot of people could be doing it. Apparently, it's newsworthy because we're talking about, right? But generally, I mean, we're seeing this happening. We're seeing this happening more and more. And this is kind of an easy way. If you're a designer today and you want to make this, you want to make some name for yourself, this could be a really super easy little weekend project you could do to make a name for yourself. So I think, so in other words, like, this is another body-inspired repeating structure that this is geometry that plays with light. And we've seen this a lot of times before, but this could be the next wave of these things. We're seeing a lot of them going forward because of the huge amount of hype around machine learning and artificial intelligence. Anyway, that's the news I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you found this useful. And I'd like to thank you very much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed the 3D printing